Hello everyone, I'm Nirdesh Dwa, executive member at Kathmandu chapter of NYEF. And today I'm here with a very special guest, Mohit Gupta. So Mohit is in an industry that feeds the nation, creates employment at scale, and is based on long-term trust. Mohit represents agro industry and he's managing director at Mohit Group. He's also part of BICCI as an executive member, business chambers of industries, and he's also second vice president at Birgunj chapter of NYEF. Welcome, Mohit.
Hi, thank you so much, Nirdesh.
Yeah. So, Mohit, let's start from the very beginning, right? So, I came to know that Mohit Group is older than you. It started before you were born. But then, I think you know how it started, right? So, I really want to learn how it started, why it started, and how is it going now.
Thank you, Nirdesh, for having me here. And coming to Mohit Group, yes, it was founded in 1990, and I am born in 1998. Yeah. Earlier, the group was started into grain trading. I would say that it was started by my grandfather, Mr. Sukhdev Prasad, and since then they have been into trading. Then they started with a husker plant in rice, and gradually they have invested into plants into rice. That time it was just rice, and when his sons came over, my dad, my Tauji and everyone, when they took over, and when I was born, they had their first plant possibly in a steam segment, and that was the time when my father thought it was a lucky thing for him, which is working out well for him. So he kept the industry name with my name on it.
Yeah.
So that is how it is. But it's not that I'm the chairman or something of that. I'm just a executive director there, and working with all my brothers and all my fathers around there. And we have a great guidance and great team around the whole organization. So that's how this organization is going well.
Okay, so to add on to that, Mohit, I'm really interested to know what are the main products and what are the main offerings of Mohit Group, and also what is the scale that you operate in, number of employees and everything.
Coming to the scale, agro industry is a large capital intensive industry, as we all know, right? There is huge investment but very few returns are out of it when you get into it. It's more towards serving the society in the best possible way. So that's the major objective behind these industries. Coming to the extent, we have one of the largest plant in terms of production capacity of rice, and also in soya chunks also we are targeting most, we are, I think, one of the sole companies or very few companies that are targeting all the 7 provinces of this country.
Okay.
In terms of soya chunks and pulses and other products that are something which is in a different vertical where we go into trading, and that is how we are navigating the market.
Okay.
And there are different products into food segment that we just import and do the packaging and circulate in the market by building the trust and that kind of a thing. That is how things are operated. That's how the team is and how the work is going around this company.
Okay, that's interesting. So you mentioned, this industry is really capital intensive, and then the turnover is quite complicated, right? So, for all the people who are not in this industry, right, not associated with manufacturing, processing, or even agro industry, for all the members and people out of this industry, I want to talk about the hardships and the pain points that this industry has right now. More on that.
Hardship is something that I said it's capital intensive and a very low return on it, and that is always everyone's focus, where you have high margins in the product where you are investing in, because you have a huge team to manage altogether. So that is not there in our organization. So that is how we have to strive on a very little margin, and very little work is there for all of us as a director into that. So that is there, and the major hardship is more towards policy, I would feel, as an industrialist, because whatever we can do at the best at our extent we are trying to do, but we are still unable to compete with the industries that are on the other side of the border. That is what is a problematic thing for all industries into this country. Our country is being more dependent onto the other neighboring countries on necessary goods,
Okay.
which Nepal was not in earlier years. And that is a big question for all of us to think, how can we overcome this whole problem? So that is there.
Yeah, okay, so when you talk about India, and Birgunj is right in the border, right? So there are a lot of competitive products flooding into Nepal from India in every segment. In rice, I'm not sure, so soya chunks, but then in rice and in every other segment, there are a lot of competitors. So how is the competition in your field in the market, and how are you navigating the whole scenario of competing with this large giant India?
One thing that we have good is the people believing in Nepalese products.
Yeah.
That is always a helpful thing from the country. The second thing is that we are, working on neck to neck to fight with the competitors from the other side. What is at stake is the open border with Nepal and India, where food grains are, navigated from one place to other, especially from India to Nepal, without any bills or without any of that thing sort. So that cannot be regulated by anyone, and that is one of the most problematic thing, right? And that is hampering all the industries, not just our industry. I think it's all the manufacturing industry that is operating in Nepal. They are facing this type of problem all the way from Nepal's border, because we have an open border, and I don't see any solutions around there, because open border is something that we have had for centuries with India, and it will remain same, and we believe in that. But the transfer of the products has to be regulated in a way where it benefits the industries working in Nepal. And the major thing is the price sensitivity, right? The cost of production that we have, we charge it accordingly, and the cost of production India has, they charge it accordingly. But when it goes under the billing thing, everyone gains. So that is what has to be stopped, and that is what has to be regulated.
Oh, that's an interesting, because India, having open border with India is a boon as well as a bane. And like you said, the regulation part is, I think, really, really hard, because we have all open borders with India. So I think that's going to take a long time. But I think what India is really good at is branding, right? The way we see all the Indian brands, may be it in rice or even spices and everything, we have grown up seeing the Indian ads, and we know the brands more than Nepalese brands. There are a few brands that we know of Nepal in food industry that has made itself position itself as a premium brand, and the people know it, right? So, and I think agro industry has this long process of producing, processing, and then bringing it to the market, distribution, and then also branding. So out of all this, what is the strength? What is one of the factors that actually help you sell more, and that you should be focusing on? What are the as a whole industry, where are we underperforming, and what can be done better?
The strength is always the quality of product, the people and the industries that are manufacturing here in our country. It's a quality that everyone can rely on, and since quite a time, Nepal in the non-Basmati sector, especially in rice, is totally dependent on Nepalese industries. In Basmati, we are totally dependent on India. That is a different stake altogether, being in our premium segment. Coming to the most weakest part throughout this whole thing is the payment thing. The credit system in this country, specifically in our industry, as I know, is quite a headache for all the industrialists. We are ready to give our products, but the payment will be coming into 90 days, possibly 180 days. So that particular amount is being cycled into our industry just for 3 or 4 times. Once the goods are made and the payment comes in, we are able to cycle that particular investment just 3 or 4 times, right? Whereas in India or other countries, what are they doing is that particular amount can be recycled 24 times in a year. Right? So we are definitely behind that. The payment is a big headache for, I think, our industry and most of the manufacturing industry. It's a headache. It's 180 days, 90 days types of payments in the market when you circulate your goods. So when the cycle cash flow is not good, anyone is in
capital, because I think it's in a lot of industries in Nepal. The payment cycle is really bad.
Really bad.
So you said Basmati, we are totally dependent on India for Basmati. I didn't know the fact. I know India is the biggest producer of Basmati, but why is the reason that we cannot produce Basmati in Nepal?
So basically what is there with India, like throughout the world, it's an interesting fact that in India and Pakistan are the major producers of Basmati around the world. So they export throughout to the world. They are the major manufacturers and bringers of the Basmati. The name itself says quality with smell. That is what the Basmati resonates with. And why are we dependent on India for Basmati is that people in our country have shifted their status and have shifted their investment into the standard of life. But the farmers in our country are still into the most economical crop, that is Sona Mansuli,
Yeah.
Gorakhnath. They are still investing into these types of crops.
Okay.
So that gap is always there. Also, the irrigation system in India.
Yeah.
Irrigation system, like the land in India, the land required for producing rice or any crop, 50 to 55% of the land is irrigated. So it is not dependent on climatic conditions. They can still be managed. Whereas in Nepal, the irrigation system lies to just 20 to 25%.
Okay.
So there is a huge uncertainty with the crops. You can see lots of blue collar job holder people from farmer family going outside to get jobs. So we have less population to work in agriculture. We have few places with irrigation system. We have the shift into the status and investment of life in Nepal. So there are quite targeted reasons why there is a shift, why there is a dependency on India, and why Nepal people are not still coping with these types of crops.
Okay. So you said the quality of crop is in one hand, but you also said there's a very much uncertainty with crops.
Uncertainty with the climate.
Yeah, climate itself. So I have two questions around that. Right. So first question is, if there is so much uncertainty with crop production, right? Every year, I think there's the amount of crops produced are different, but then you have certain amount of markets here. You need to deliver it. How do you manage, the production against the crop production? It's uncertain, right? So the second thing is, you said the family of the farmers are going abroad. They are not because all these problems are there, right? So at the end of the day, this kind of industries actually depend on those farmers who are actually producing the crops. So what are the ways that Mohit Group actually gives back to the farmer? It might be in terms of knowledge, or in terms of other help or other facilities.
Coming to the farmer segment, what we always promise is that our first priority to procure crops is from Nepal. That is a first thing for all the industry, not just Mohit Group. I think most of the industry does that in our country. And when we are short of crops in our country, then only we look to India to procure some crops there. And also it comes towards what the market is demanding, right? If the market is demanding Basmati, we have to import it anyhow.
Okay.
We don't have it in our country.
So what's the ratio of import and production in Nepal?
If we go for import, I think for non-Basmati, it has nearly about equalized the import thing.
Okay, so
The amount of production that we have in our country, I think it has gone more than production. I believe it has gone more than production, and we are much more dependent on the Indian side for procuring rice or something.
Okay, so
Or any agro product, I believe.
Okay, so what do you see in the future? Is it going to be more import than the production, and the production is going to be less?
Yeah, the scenario and the policy that we have in our country is putting us at a diminishing rate. Like the production is diminishing, the supply is diminishing from our side. That is a real fact for all the industries in this industry. They know this well. But if the government wants this industry to rise, they have to think again how to revive the policies that are friendly to these industrialists.
So what would be few policies, Mohit, that you would actually recommend?
Now, coming to the policy segment, first is the payment cycle that we are very much concerned about.
Yeah.
A Credit Act has to be created by the government for not just our industry, for every industry. If that act is created, then the payment cycle of all industries becomes in a very good manner. Secondly, comes to the not policy but an infrastructure and electricity thing is something that we are very much concerned about. The supply of electricity that all the industry is being given into our country is quite few and less in terms of our competition on the other side. So that is an important thing where this thing can be worked out and can be managed. If these things are managed, I think we'll be in a better condition in coming days.
Okay. So when you talk about policy, I want to touch upon BICCI because you are executive member in there. So I want to talk about a few things because policy plays a large portion in how a country develops, right? So that's very important. So as a EC executive member of BICCI, right? What do you see BICCI is doing on this front, on the policy front for many industries and agro industries?
Agro industry, what have we always been advocating from BICCI is that we want a better percentage when things are imported from India. We want a higher percentage for them. Secondly, coming to the other segment also, because BICCI is a very vast organization and is supporting all the sectors altogether. And coming to the youth also into this segment, for youth we have always been advocating that there has to be a single window system for procuring loan, for registering their business. That's what we have always been taking care of. For MSc and SMEs, what have we been telling the government is that there are lots of clusters of enterprises working in the market that is totally informal, right?
Okay.
And those clusters of people are contributing hugely to the GDP,
Yeah.
right? So that contribution is unseen in the market,
Yeah.
and that contribution is not that money is also not utilized by the government for the country. So what can the government do to make that formalization? So that is what we are also advocating for them. Other policies that we have been advocating is that bringing the digital payment incentives, which states that whatever MSCs or startups, whatever they are paying into their informal economy, if they pay through digital format, they has to be created a system where digital payments should be created as a base for procuring loan from the banks.
Okay.
If that is created in the country, I think lots of informal economy is going to formalize, because if there is some incentive, people are going to be interested. Right now there is a fear, like I'll be taxed. Why would I give that money to the government if there is no billing or something? But if the government thinks for the people and incentivize this whole thing, I think there will be a shift towards that. So there are lots of
I
success
think this policy, I really agree with this policy because I'm part of NASIT. I was actually one of the founding members of NASIT. So it's an industry organization for all the IT companies of Nepal. So one of the first policies that we lobbied for, we made happen is reducing the freelancers. There are a lot of freelancers in Nepal working for industries out of Nepal, right? So companies out of Nepal, to reduce their tax to 5% bracket, so that it's not a huge tax to pay for everything that you're doing. That would actually change the informal economy into formal economy, but also if they are paying, they'll also it'll be easy for them when they're in formal economy to get loans and everything, right? So the loan part is still not done, but then we have actually brought down to 5%. So I think, if they can get loan against whatever they are, whatever they're earning or whatever they're selling, then that will be a movement towards bringing everyone into the formal economy. So a lot of part of economy is uncaptured in the formal level. So that's one. So connecting to BICCI, Birgunj is a very interesting place, right? So it's right in the border. It's cross-border. And a lot of logistics flow through Birgunj. And then there are a lot of industries in Birgunj. But I think Birgunj is still underrepresented in the national level, right? I wanted to ask you, why is it so? And then what is Birgunj as a, BICCI doing to make it, place Birgunj as the powerhouse for industries?
Thank you, Nirdesh. There has been certain questions and people thinking why there has been less representation from Birgunj as a city. We have one of the strongest economic organization, I would say, as Birgunj Chambers, and we have been always, getting the reach of the ministers for advocating all our needs that we want. But certainly, when the ministers are made, the government changes within years. So the policies are not certain around. But yes, Birgunj is reaching towards national level, and FNCCI is doing quite justice towards that, because they have meetings and discussions around every organizations around the country. They make sure that whenever they meet any ministers, every chapter, every organization has the stake to put up their points towards FNCCI, and FNCCI does the needful. And same we have in the youth forum as well. We have NGC doing that, and we have NYEF different chapters all around the city. We come as a uniform method by putting all our problems in our city, and our national body puts that thing into the government's ears. So that's how the system is putting up in the economic forums. But we are hopeful in the central body also more Birgunj participation can increase. So that's a hope that we all Birgunj people have.
So I think this is all, I've always been very fascinated by the industries, the growth of industries in business, Birgunj, and Birgunj kind of being economical, like you said, capital of Nepal. That's very interesting. So related to BICCI, this is my last question. You are EC as well as president of Education committee in BICCI, right? So what do you see are the main challenges in education system in Nepal, and what are the things that you would change if you were given given the power to do so in Nepal in education?
I'm the executive member at BSCs and also the chairman leading the
Also,
education
if you
committee.
could give your educational background, where did you study from, so that it will make it more, you know.
So I come from a place where I had studied from India
Yeah.
since my childhood, and since then I have always pursued all my education in India. And when I came back, like in India, I studied in Hillgrange, then I went to St. George's, and then Delhi University. So these are my education where I come from. Plus, when I got the opportunity to lead the education committee, I was thrilled, but also in stress. How can we do justice to this committee? Till date, what we have done is we have held lots of internal meetings with the members we have in the committee, and what are we planning right now with the committee is that we have to create a link between the academy and the industrialist. So that's what the project is with us in the committee hands, and the president and all the executive members at chambers are very much supportive towards that, and sooner or later we'll be able to execute that project. And coming to the problems that you asked, what is there to work on the education system in our country? So what I feel is that the system that prevails into our country is quite traditional. The skill set the industry needs and the skill set that the education system is providing to the students is quite vast. Like the difference is quite vast. The skill set we are getting from the market and the people we are employing is quite the people we have to employ and then train them to the best. And when we train them, the people who we have trained goes out of this country to pursue more better jobs around there, because it's not just about money, it's about standard of living as well.
Yeah.
So they prefer it that way, and for us as an industrialist, we face this huge vacuum in this whole system.
Yeah.
If we have great supply of skilled employees in this country, we will be having less of hard work training into our own system, and we'll be having more of people who can be part of this organization in terms of bringing the best to the people in the country, because manufacturers are doing that. So that is why I would like to have a change in that, creating more skill set, more practical knowledge into the education system. AI has been doing quite well in current scenario. IT for a decade has done quite well in this whole world. But where is Nepal into IT in education system? Have we implemented IT into basic education or not? The app making should be developed by a kid into a primary education also. That has to be the thinking of every education people who are making policies for them. AI has been integrated, so AI has to be a subject into children's education system books. So that is what the government has to be very much active and aggressive into these things. What is changing around the world and what has to be implemented, what is necessary for the students today. But reading books and getting mugged up all the syllabus and chapters is not going to get you anywhere. Skills are going to get you ahead in your life, so that's important to gain skills, and education systems should be based on that.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the main problems with education system in Nepal. I see a lot of right now. I think in private sector there are a few schools actually trying to do really, because we work with education institutions. A lot of schools now are trying to actually do better in terms of not just intellectual side of things, but then they are trying to give more skill and project-based knowledge. And parents now know that at the end of the day, rote education is not going to work in long term, right? So I think that's changing, but I think it should be from the very top, from the policy as well. That's something, and also bringing in the latest knowledge and latest. So I heard of this policy. I'm not sure of this. I'm not an education expert, but I heard that. On a long run, a lot of theories actually change. There will be new scientists finding new theories, but in our curriculum, I think it is according to the government, and I might be wrong. I'll not quote this, but I've heard that you can only put a theory in the curriculum if it is 50 years old, and 50 years is a long time for science, right? So science changes really fast, and the theory can be outdated. There will be new theory actually against it and proved wrong, right? So that's one of the problems, that we update the government updates curriculum very, 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 very late. But I also see private schools are pushing for better education, better kind of education and all. So let's go back to NYEF, right? Now we are actually entering the NYEF, NYEF person. So you are vice president of NYEF Birgunj chapter. If we look at all the NYEF chapter, the ratio of representation of different industries are different. So what's it like in NYEF Birgunj chapter? What is the biggest industry? What are the less represented industries like startups, new tech startups, right? And also, what portion of the whole NYEF are family-run, second generation, third generation businesses, and what are how much around what portion of them are new entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs?
Quite a question about NYEF, especially data about the members, right? And most NYEF members would be interested. What are the strength and how the community is looking like?
Yeah.
So coming to the strength of the types of people we have in our organization, starting with trading sector, I think that is the huge numbers of people who are into trading. That is a huge. Second comes the people who are into service. And there are lots of startup people also. Even our first vice president, he started his own venture here in the city previous year itself in 2025. What the venture is like, you can buy machines and any hardware products online. And that has been a biggest problem to all the industries into our corridor. He's supplying all towards Nepal right now, and he has a great pricing and everything. And I'm promoting buynepal.com as well. So
buynepal.com.
Buynepal.com, yeah. So that's what he has started. Also, we have members who have started, caring of vehicles like car spa. We have car wash. These are kinds of new startups are coming up here in Birgunj, and Birgunj is developing into much more, urban capitalization, I would say, where people are developing, like malls are coming up. We have QFX in Birgunj, we have KFC in Birgunj, we have water parks, we have fun activity games, we have, gaming parks and these kind of things. So these kinds of members are also part of NYEF. So what's interesting is that Birgunj is, developing into a very dynamic city, and all those people who are indirectly or indirectly connected, anyhow connected towards this organization, and everyone recognizes this organization in a very different way. So these are also part of the NYEF, and these are the young minds that are changing the dynamics of the city, and will definitely change the dynamics of the country as well.
Oh, yeah. And as a group, I think NYEF is a very, very, powerful group for Nepal, for the development of the country. So I actually work with a lot of people in NYEF, right? Not directly, but then there are things that I procure there are my clients in NYEF, and there are a lot of partnerships that we do across members in NYEF. That's the value I see in NYEF, and all the programs that we do in Kathmandu chapter, like Startup Awards, from where a lot of good startups has come out, and they have got investment and kept growing. So. And we have a few other signature programs like, Entrepreneurship Conclave and, NYEF Startup Award is one. So about Birgunj chapter, the first thing is, what are your signature programs, the programs that actually impact the community and, country as a whole? And the second thing is, what are the values in NYEF that you see that is actually, that you came into and that you feel are there?
The flagship events that we are doing currently is the Young Entrepreneurs Summit that we held in the early stages of this particular financial year of NYEF, and that was a big hit show for us. We had Mrs. Priya Sijal as our keynote speaker. What does these kinds of program does to specifically to the students of that city? We bring all kinds of students in the colleges and university pursuing business or any courses related to business. We bring young entrepreneurs who are already doing businesses in their real life. We bring some great establishment speakers who have great skills in their own journey. We bring all of them together, and we try to share as much as knowledge we can do into that particular program. It's a full day run through program that we executed this particular year, and we have been doing that in previous years as well. Also, Made in Nepal is something that we have always been doing through some or the other way. If there is any fest going around the city, we put up Made in Nepal, sure thing that this has to be portrayed anyhow from NYEF. So that is something that we have always motivating into our city. Made in Nepal products has to be promoted through anyway, and NYEF is the way where we are navigating this whole towards it. Also, the learning programs with different dignitaries around the city who have established themselves into a great entrepreneurs, great leaders. So we have great learning sessions with them. So we bring a great connections with them, how they have felt their journey through a very personal way, and how can they give some learnings to all of us. So that's what we are doing to the members around the city. And this was how NYEF Birgunj is shaping the youth minds in Birgunj.
Okay. So how did about the second question, right? So what are the value that you extract out of NYEF at this point?
And why did I join us? So,
Why did you join NYEF?
So basically, the felicitation of NYEF Birgunj chapter was done in the tenure of Prakash Dev Falike sir.
Okay.
He was then NGC president, and Udip Dai was the incoming president then. And I had a talk with Udip Shresh Dai at that particular time at the felicitation, and I got to know that he is also from St. George's, where I have pursued my education. So he told me one thing, that when I came from that boarding school from India and everything, I had very few connections to know around this country, and NYEF has done quite justice towards that by fulfilling all of it. You have greater minds, likewise mind, people working together into different firms, but working together to bring some change around this whole city. As we have right now in NYEF, we have B2B groups, where if you need anything out of anywhere in this country, someone is there to help you out. If I be in Pokhara, if I be in KTM, I have friends from NYEF who's going to help me out in any possible way, whatever thing is needed. So I think NYEF as a community is much more stronger than anything that I feel, any community that I have ever joined. It's more towards friendship, it's more towards building bonds, and also we also plan on bringing good businesses if we have likewise minded or something. So partnerships are also built in NYEF. So that is what young minds are looking forward for.
The very warm part of NYEF is we have a lot of competing businesses, and they help each other. And that's very interesting. This doesn't happen in other communities. Now, lastly, before we move to rapid fire round, I have a rapid fire round as well. So you are 27 and you are leading a big industry. Few hundred people, you are leading few hundred people in your industry. So it's a family-led business, right? So how do you lead such a big industry? And in agro-based business industry, which is about resilience, long-term goals and long-term vision. So how do you, as a leader, make sure that everything goes according to plan, everybody is working in the plan and everything, right? So, and also, how is second generation or third generation business, right? The handover process, and to make sure that it doesn't go wrong. I think a lot of businesses at this point are that started 40, 50 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, is going through a major transition, right? And it's the point where a lot of things can go wrong. Now, when you hand over the business to second generation, third generation, and what would be your suggestion for the young people coming into to lead the company that their parents built or their grandparents built, or for even the parents and grandparents that are trying to hand over the industry, so that it keeps growing and it keeps us sustaining?
Interesting one.
Yeah, there is a lot of questions in it.
But an interesting one. First of all, how I prepare as a director to the company, like how I am navigating my work towards this company, is what I make sure is that whatever work I have been given from my managing director and chairman, my dad and my Taujin, everyone, that thing has to be delivered to the point in particular time. And time is something that we are very much sure of. If something project is given, it has a deadline, it has to be completed in that particular way. So discipline is something that goes with time, and if you are maintaining that, you are going to do well. But what I personally have learned is that I personally, throughout this year, make sure that I visit each and every buyer at their house, at their retail shop, at their godown or anything. I personally meet everyone throughout this country, whoever my buyer is. So that's what I have made sure that I'll visit each and every buyer to understand their mentality about our company, what changes are they looking forward, because they are the main people who are talking to my consumers, dealers and everyone. So they are going to tell me what they are thinking about the company, what are their feedback. That is going to be an honest thing. More from my salesmen. Salesmen are always going to put a good image in front of you about their company. Your employees are going to do that. So to get into depth, how depth can you go for your company? So that is much more important for me, and that is what I do. I have made a schedule throughout my year. In a month, 15 days is totally for market visits. That's always there. I dedicate my time, tell my buyers I'll be there with them. have a cup of coffee, time with them, and that's how I learn about them. And that's how I learn about my business as well.
Yeah.
How things has worked out previously and how things are working now. And that's how we make strategies for the coming years. And we don't make very long plans. That's not what we do. We just think about a month or a quarter. That's it.
Okay.
And we process the plans, execute things what we want, and we move ahead. If things are bad, we just say it's an experience, an MBA fees. Let's move on with it.
Okay.
That's how we navigate this whole thing. Coming to an advice, I cannot advise people like grandfathers, anyone, how they are doing that to the transferring that to the younger generation. But what I have personally felt in my family is that there was no formal process that happened.
Yeah.
It's more about you and yourself. How ready are you to take more responsibilities, and how willingly are you going to execute that? And that particular small task is going to put you at a stake. You will never know when you come at that a leading position that you'll be starting to lead the company.
Yeah.
So forefathers and all people above you just want that trust. If you can gain that trust, it will come with patience. It won't be that you will go and sit on the director's chairs and you will be heading everyone, go do this, do that. So it is just a patient and a very time-taking thing. It's with trust, with small tasks. Take small tasks from them, take small tasks from the company, do it differently, make an impact in that organization, and slowly people will recognize you, and they are your fathers in one. They will pull you up. Take this responsibility as well, and take this as well, because you can execute it that way. So it comes with time and process.
Yeah. Okay, so
slowly.
There's a long process in there.
It is.
So a lot of learning. So I actually agree with you. The thing that you're doing is very interesting, because I didn't know it happens in agro business. You are trying to actually implement a lot of customer focused planning into your business, right? So in our tech side, we always say that customers will show you where the money is, right? Now, you cannot just build a product. You should be listening to your customers and then building the product. So when we started Veda, we work in nearly 1,500-1,600 schools around 4 countries. So we started as a very small product, and all the features that we built was from the feedback of the customers. Right now, we engage with them every other day. We see what features are being used, what are not being used, what do we have to make new by talking to the customers. So in our field, it's always the customers. And learning from you, you're actually doing 15 days a month for a customer. That's really interesting. So I think that's all for the formal podcast session. I'll actually go on to a rapid fire round. I have some questions for you, Mohit. Actually, I printed it. So I'll start from the first one. So, what are the top 3 Nepali brands that you use?
In terms of what?
So, 3 Nepali brands that you use today. Anything. Rapid fire, yeah.
Mohit, Makuse, and Hospitality Solti.
Solti, okay. Also, I didn't ask, this is not in rapid fire, but then I didn't ask, what are the brands that people actually recognize for Mohit Group?
Specifically, we are very much favorites in rice, I think.
Yeah, so what are the name of the products?
It's myself, my Mohit.
Okay.
Mohit itself is the brand.
So, what do you think kills Nepali businesses more? Lack of capital or lack of discipline?
Lack of discipline.
Okay. Is agro industry the biggest opportunity in Nepal right now as well?
True.
Biggest unfair advantage of Birgunj?
Relations.
Okay. Most dangerous advice young entrepreneurs keep hearing today?
Be the job owner, don't be a job seeker.
Okay. So, degree or real world exposure?
Pardon again?
So, degrees or real world exposure?
Always real world exposure.
So in current market, are we producing too many founders who can pitch or too few who can operate? Too many founders who can pitch or too few founders who can operate?
Few founders who can operate. Okay. That is important.
So one mindset shift youth must make to compete regionally and globally.
Mindset shift, think as high as you want. Dream big.
Dream big, okay. Nepal's growth will accelerate the day we stop dash and start dash.
We stop overthinking about government and start working things by ourselves.
Oh, that's a good one. Thank you, Mohit. So, yeah, we as Nepalese, I find this in a lot of people, right? I talk to a lot of young people, and they actually, in our tech sector, I know more of the tech sector, and they can build anything at this point. We have AI that can code, and that can build anything, but they'll think very small. They always think of copycat products from the US or competitors. So I think until and unless we make our next generation or even our generation think big, we are not going to become big. So we always think small.
Definitely.
Although we have this potential and we have these tools and techniques and all the knowledge that we need, but we don't think big. So that was a nice answer. So Mohit, thank you for being here in the first podcast of NYEF, Nepal Young Entrepreneurship Forum. So I'm really, I actually knew a bit about you, but I got to know more of you, and you are very special because you come from an industry that fits Nepal, agro industry, but you are also into education through your BICCI, and you are also leading one of the strongest organization of young entrepreneurs. Your story is really interesting, right? Your journey has been really good. You're still young, and you connect a lot of dots. Young entrepreneur, young leader, agro industry, and also education. These are all dots that you connect very beautifully. Before moving on, I want to ask you one final question. That is, looking ahead 10 years from now, what are you looking forward to seeing Nepal as? What are the things that young leaders and industry leaders can come together and build in next 10 years?
Quite interesting, and I have to give it a thought. But coming to the facts, 10 years from now on, the current GDP that I studied was from 2024. That was near about $48.9 billion. That is what our GDP is, right? If we come to three segments, first being primary sector, that is agri sector, that contributes near about 24 to 25% of the GDP, right? Second sector is secondary sector, that is manufacturing and industrialist. That is contributing near 12 to 13% of the GDP. Third is the tertiary sector. That is the service and others, right? In the tertiary sector, that is contributing towards 60% of the GDP. So a country is navigated in a way where tertiary sector is dominating the country. So what would I like to see after 10 years? The major change that I would like to see is that primary and secondary dominating equally with tertiary sector. Right now, the industry has gone very low. The 12% contribution to the GDP is quite low. And same with agriculture. Nepal being an agricultural dependent, where 30%, like 20 to 25% is contributed by the people of agriculture segment. But if you see the interesting fact, 60% of the population is directly dependent on the agriculture sector. So see, just 25% of the contribution is done by 60% of the population. So that's a very sad part. In a long-term run, what I would like to see is that the contribution shifts towards the industrial, this primary and the secondary sector as well, and there should be a 33% ratio with all the sectors all together, and all sectors should grow in a very good way where the economy shines brighter.
Okay, that's a very good answer, Mohit. Thank you for being here. Thank you all the viewers for viewing this, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Thank you so much, Nirdesh, for having me here, and it was a great knowing about you, and it was an amazing experience altogether. Thank you.
Thank you.